After 5 years of creating exciting business content with amazing businesses from around the world, Savvy is now creating a new video series entitled Heartbeat of the World. This series will feature experts from around the globe. We will highlight and discuss some of the greatest challenges facing the U.S. and the world. Co-create with us and find out more at bit.ly/savvypatron.
Savvy Business Radio runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at savvybusinessradio.com.
Our guest today is Danny Bader, facilitator, speaker, and coach for the past 15 years. He has spent much of his time in Fortune 100 and small to medium-sized organizations, leading people to greater performance, growth, happiness, and fulfillment. Today, Danny shares his journey to entrepreneurship and how he was able, with purposeful productivity, develop a bold vision that has carried him forth to being a successful entrepreneur. Find out more about Danny at DannyBader.com. Hi, Danny. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Christina.
Well, I'm super excited to have you here today. You're doing wonderful work around the globe, helping entrepreneurs build the life of freedom that so many want. I mean, people become an entrepreneur for the idea that I want my free time, I don't want to work for someone else. But often, entrepreneurs end up locking themselves into their own job where they're working for their business instead of their business working for them. And you're going to help us get out of that rat race, as it were. But before we go there, share with our audience a little bit about your background and what brought you to becoming an entrepreneur.
Well, I worked in corporate America for a number of years and then kind of had that itch to get out of there, as you just mentioned, and have a little bit more control over lifestyle and revenue and those things. So I worked then for 2 training companies where I was a speaker and a coach and a presenter. And I could work from home, which was nice. I got redid my office here, which is a really peaceful place for me. And then about 3 years ago, I went on my own. So that's kind of the quick snapshot of where I came from.
And what was the aha moment that had you leaving corporate? Was there like a moment, or was it like a period of time that?
It was like a period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had worked in the restaurant industry prior to going into corporate. And then when I got in there, I worked for a bank back here in Wilmington, Delaware, a credit card bank. And I kind of knew inside it just wasn't the fit for me. But I was married. I am married. I had 2 kids then. And, it gives you that stability. Yeah. And, sometimes you just go with that. But as all entrepreneurs know, you, me, if something's gnawing inside of you, it usually doesn't stop.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was funny. It was actually a moment for me that was the aha, like, okay, things need to change. And it was my going into work one day where I was like, I don't think I could take one more day in corporate. And I was praying and saying, God, but I feel like I'd be a quitter and you wouldn't have my back if I went into work and quit. And I felt God telling me, since when have I not had your back no matter what you've chosen to do?
That's right. That's right. I talk a lot about trust. Yeah. People will always say, I hope it works out. I hope. And I think when you just surrender and trust and, we got to get off our butts and do things as well. There's some action connected to that. But trust for me is much, much more powerful word.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What do you find working with entrepreneurs is one of the things that blocks them from really creating that life of freedom?
Probably is the risk, and the risk is typically financial. Started. The risk is relationships with significant others and people that are going, I don't know if you can do this. It's a big risk. Yeah. And then I think beliefs, their own beliefs about it. Most times when people are in transition, I just started doing an audio book of the book that I wrote not too long ago. And there's a character in there, Paul, that says life is just a series of transitions. Those that see the other side and create the other side are successful. And he said the other ones that, they just kind of bitch too much because they're stuck in that rut. So the challenges I see, it's a great question. I see financial, you got to take care of that. Relationships, make sure that the key people are on board. But then really hold up the mirror and kind of look at yourself and say, how am I thinking about this? What do I see 6 months now? And that was a big challenge for me.
Yeah. How was it a challenge? What happened to kind of get, challenge you at that moment when you were going through the transition yourself?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of my biggest hangups was beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have some great friends, a support network. I have one sister and 6 brothers, and she's a wonderful business person. And, she just challenged me on it.
Mm-hmm.
And from a good place, but said, you've got all this success where you've done the same thing for other people. Why not do it on your own? And then I had a friend of mine that broke down the belief around financial, because I had to hit my 401k like many entrepreneurs will do when they start out. And, I had a belief anchored by my dad, who's still alive, mom and dad, wonderful guy, just said, save your money, don't touch it. So when we hear that, that's where our beliefs come from. My buddy said, but wait a minute, if you're going to take 80 or 100 grand out in a year, how much could you potentially make? And I went, and he said, so, okay, if you leave it in there, you're going to make 4 or 5% in your fund. And you can make, so I was like, see, that's how our beliefs change, right? So somebody gives you an opportunity to think about it differently. So I am blessed with some cool people in my life.
You totally are, because it's interesting. When I got started, the people in my life are phenomenal, and they really were cheering me on. But it's interesting when you come from a perspective like your parents, where say don't touch it because there's a rainy day coming. You never know what might happen. You need this.
Sure.
A lot of the people around me at that time were just coming from a supportive idea that, hey, I want to keep you safe. How about you just do this when you have more money in the bank?
Right.
And that could be, well, honestly, when's enough money? When is enough money? To 100,000, 50,000?
Yeah.
There's never, when's that good time to jump off the
You got it. And that's kind of a sliding scale. But the people, it's cool. They come from their heart. They just, I would love to put more money away and just not touch it, and have it for when I need it, or leave it to my children, when the time comes.
Yeah.
But I think the key point there is there's value, right? And there's value by you and I having $200, $500, $1 million in the bank. There's also value by us doing what we do.
There is.
And that value is far more important than me, than the money side. Both important, but that when you're doing what you, as you said, what you love, and you're impacting people, you're kind of a conduit to supporting them. That's it, and then typically what I've found, and you probably found, is then the money starts to come, and you go, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is really cool.
Yeah. Now let's go back to belief, though, because that's a hard one, a hard nut for a lot of people getting started. And I remember I had a wonderful mentor who said something very important to me that just blew my socks off. I had a business meeting to set up a big contract when I first got started. And I went in and I told her, oh, the interview went great. And she's like, why did you call it an interview? Isn't this a business deal you're working on? And she said, you're talking about it as if you're going in for an employee interview. Those words have meaning. And when you walk in there with that mindset, you're actually acting as if you're an employee instead of an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And then on the same token, she said to me, okay, right now, just don't think about it. The first 5 words that come out of your mind when you think of your business. And all of them were not positive, actually.
Right.
Debt, scary, fearful. And, it was a good exercise for me to get clear about where my beliefs were at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. That's a wonderful exercise. That's what I tell people when I'm doing, some of the workshops, and I'll say, think about an area of your life needs to get better. And then if I said to you, okay, tell me about that, just write down the statements that you're going to say. And that's pretty much your beliefs about where you are, your career, your relationships, your health, anything at all.
Now,
that's where the work has to start,
Absolutely. Now, how have you found it being an entrepreneur? Do you feel that one part of your life affects another? Are they all interconnected?
Yeah, I do. And I work hard to kind of create that. So I have one of the things I think that's real powerful for entrepreneurs is the vision, which I talk about a whole lot, the ability to imagine what's not real, but what needs to be real. So I do the exercise I learned years ago, just writing that letter from the future back to myself in all the areas of my life. And it's an all-day event every Friday. So and when I read that, it's very easy to see how my health and my relationships and my spirituality is connected, and my writing, my creativity, and the books and all that, because it keeps you focused, and because you write it in detail in past tense, it usually solicits some inspiration. Yeah, it's written as if it's done, but it's really not. So you're going, I gotta get off my butt and do this.
Now, tell me, when you do that, because I know I tried that exercise with my mentor many years ago. The first time I did it, I felt a little like I was lying to myself because it didn't really happen. How do you contend with that? Or do you just notice it and move on from that?
Yeah, no, I think where I meet the people and meet them where they are is to say, well, this is the first time you've done this.
Yeah.
So anytime we step into something that's unfamiliar, you may have a little doubt, you may have a little anxiety, and those things show up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what I've found is it's got to be realistic. Right. So when I go out there and say, I'm going to do $2 million this year, it's not realistic for me. Mm-hmm. You know, about your weight, your relationships, your travel. So I would just work with them more specifically and say, okay, tell me where that's really showing up for you right now.
Mm. And that's a good point you mentioned, that it be realistic for where you are right now. Because I think when I got started, I modeled where I want to be on some of the top, most successful entrepreneurs out there. Mm-hmm. And then I tried to go out and do that. And I didn't have the funds for it. I didn't have the resources. And my friend's like, you're not there. They've been in business for 25 years. You've been in business, I don't know, 6 months.
Right. Yeah, I find if you make it realistic and you have the outcomes in there, right? So you have the measurable revenues or weight loss or whatever it might be. But I tell people, write more about the process, write the how. Tell me the story of how you did that. And when they start to see that, then usually there's a shift in them where, okay, I can see this. I can see this now. I can see this happening. And in most cases, I just did one yesterday for a group. And what always shows up when we debrief it is accountability. They said, man, I really have to do this. I have been thinking about this for years, whatever it is. You know, maybe their entrepreneurship is they're going to stay in corporate, but they're going to start some real estate property, buy some investment properties, or maybe they're going to start to get back in a band and play some music. Because entrepreneur, that's a huge definition of somebody just providing a service or a good, where they're kind of doing it on their own. So that's the thing too, to shift people that you don't have to jump off sometimes. Start to build it over here while you still have the safety net of corporate. Although I don't know if safety net of corporate exists all that much anymore, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
You know,
you mentioned something. I heard it pop in there a little bit into your conversation. The word of value, when you add value for your services, product, or information. And now there's a lot of confusion about what's the value of something and what's the price of something. It's not the same thing. How do you come to term what the value of what you're giving to someone is?
Well, in most cases, if the conversation comes up and they start to talk about money, I just go back and usually I talk to them before I even go in. What's the intended outcome of this? What do you want people to say? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to experience afterwards? And then when we get into it, say, okay, so if some folks now go out and they create better relationships with key people in their life, what is that worth? How do we put a value on that? If somebody decides that they're finally going to lose 30 or 40 pounds and get real intentional about their diet and bring their blood pressure down, and what's that worth? And if they still can't see the connection between money of this world and value of kind of the soul or the spirit, then a lot of times I just, shake hands or hug them, wish them well, and I'm moving on because, right. As we know, the nice thing about entrepreneurs too is you can kind of choose who you want to work with.
Absolutely.
And there's many times when I've said, you know what, I wish you all the best, but I don't know that we're going to do that.
Yeah. And sometimes even I found there's some people that are great people and they want to hire me, but they're not ready to make the changes or do what's necessary. Sure. And they're like, I'll give you all the money in the world. I think this is really valuable. But I kind of just want things to magically go to the direction I want without me putting any effort on my part.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, well, then I really can't help you right now until you're willing to do, your part in the equation.
Yeah. They think that by spending the money, that's going to make the change. As you know. Yeah, no, I was up in New York years ago doing some coaching work with a guy, a young guy, real sharp, MBA, making tons of money up there on Wall Street. Did a little workshop, and then they were all lined up to do some coaching. And I went in and I sat and we started. And then I looked at him. I said, "Can I just speak from my heart a little bit?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "I could sit here for the next 2 hours and we can do this, and I'm going to get paid. But I don't know. Do you want to?" Yeah. And he's like, "Nah." He said, "Not really."
All right, let's get to the meat of the thing.
I said, I said, "I wish you all the best. Looks like you're doing well." here's where I am if you need anything. But the resistance that's not going to serve.
Exactly.
If they could see the resistance, they want to work through it, great. But if the resistance in their mind is valid, and sometimes it is, sometimes we as coaches are kind of forced into a situation from somebody else. And, you do your best to not have that happen in the first place.
Yeah.
It's up to us to really recognize that sometimes. And then, you see other coaches that just go along with it. And I'm like, oh, man, it's kind of out of integrity because you don't really stand a chance for the outcome.
Yeah, and then I don't want to walk out, as I told one guy, I don't want to walk out here with you not having the results that you want at the end of the day. Yeah. So I'm more than happy to work with you when you're ready to start making changes and do things different than you're doing them now. One guy had called me and he was doing things in a certain manner and he didn't want to change the way he did things, but just wanted different results. And
sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've done that myself and it doesn't usually work.
Yes.
But you know what?
Good insight.
Yeah. But you do something really fun. You I call them workations. You call them, what did you call them?
Workshops?
Yeah, workshops. But before the interview, you said you had another play on workations.
Plork.
Plork, yes.
Plork, play and work.
I love it. But actually, you get together and help entrepreneurs really find that freedom they want, because entrepreneurs generally, like we talked about in the beginning of the conversation, want this life of freedom, not only of having enough money in the bank, but being able to do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Yeah.
And you help entrepreneurs realize that, hey, you could be anywhere around the world in this age of technology and do your business.
Yeah.
Have it set up in such a way that it runs systematically. Explain some of your workshops and how you help entrepreneurs do that.
Well, the workshops are mostly, a lot of them I do in corporate. Mm-hmm. So I will work with some entrepreneurs, but, in terms of entrepreneur, and I think you said it, is to help people create the life that they want, and to have the freedom that they want. So it's more of that holistic kind of approach, that holistic vision, And then oftentimes I will get people that say, I kind of want to leave. This is not where I want to be. And then I'll take them through the vision process. And usually if you take them through a vision process and say, hey, 6 months from now, if I see you again, life's really good. And I ask why, what are you going to say? Let's start to get that down a little bit. And then the next part is, as coach, what challenges might we have? And that's where the beliefs will start to show up.
Yeah. And what's really interesting sometimes is I've been now working on my health now for about 5 months, and I've really gotten eating clean.
Great.
And now I just started 2 weeks ago exercise. But before that, for the last couple of years, I've known that I've needed to work on this.
Right.
But sometimes what it is you've got to be at a place where you're ready for it.
Right.
And you can know what you need to do. It can be exercise, prayer, your business, but it's got to be a time. I think it's said when the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
Sure. Yeah.
And that happened for me. I had a person come to my show recently who's a nutritionist, and he did a show with me, and he started talking about the benefits of eating clean, and it was just something that sparked in me when he was speaking that, okay, now you're ready, you got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. Thank you. I like your hair too. It looks good. Good, nice color.
But for you, actually, you had a big event happen in your life that made you, I think, help you to be ready. And that was that you kind of had a catastrophe happen. I'll let you share a little bit about that. What happened that caused you kind of to have a new outlook on life?
Yeah. It happened in 1992, so it'll be 25 years next month, July 28th. Uh-huh. And a friend and I that I worked with, he and his brother had a company, a roofing company, and we were lowering a ladder. Mm-hmm. And we hit an electric line only by 1/4 of an inch. If the wind was blowing the other way, we probably would not have hit it. Mm-hmm. And the long and the short, we both died, and I came back, and he didn't.
Oh my!
So the experience of crossing over was beautiful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wish he lived. My friend Bruce, that was the tough part. But the learning really came out of the next year, 2, 3 years. Mm-hmm. Where I went to a dark place, all kinds of nasty thoughts, abuse, those kinds of things, substance abuse and things, trying to numb out and heal. So, thankfully through the support of my faith and my family, I got through that. And I'm very thankful. And then I wrote the book, Back from Heaven's Front Porch, 5 Principles for a Happy and Fulfilling Life. And that's about a young man named Jake, that his life is very much based on mine. So a little bit of fiction in there. but based on mine. And then when that came out and people would start to read it and they would tell me how it helped them and inspired them, that's when, because I had a belief, right? who am I to tell people what to do, or what if they don't like the book, and what if, all those things. So when I finally got past it and just said, okay, I had this accident, good's coming out of it, and it's really impacting people in a positive way. When I have this thing I'll read for you real quick, because this will probably connect with entrepreneurs as well. So I'm Scorpio, right? And I look at horoscopes once in a while, not a whole lot, but I have this tape that I carry with me in the inside of one of my folders. And it's Sunday, April 28th, 2002.
Wow.
Right. So I was in corporate then, left corporate in 2007, but wasn't really settled. And I had it. And this says, your philosophy of life comes to you naturally, dear Scorpio. Others need to study, listen to experts, or sign on to various allegiances. You, on the other hand, already have a profound outlook on life, which surely you developed from your past experiences. Here's the key part. It would be interesting for you to expand upon your philosophy a bit and try to turn it into something concrete. You can see I've had it. That's 15 years now. And that was kind of, I just started to see things, feel things, have conversations with people.
Yeah.
Where I said, listen, life is short. It's very fragile.
Yeah.
What am I really here to do? And that's where now I just am thankful that I can just be a vehicle, to slow people down and let them examine how they're living.
Yeah.
Just give them some things to experiment with. That's all. I said, listen, I'm not here to tell you anything. That would be very arrogant of me. Here's how to be happy and fulfilled. I said, I was anything but happy and fulfilled after that accident. And I observed people, and I worked, and I went through dark places.
Yeah.
And then at the coaching school, when I was getting out of the Hudson Institute, they said, you can do a model, coaching model principles. That Covey has 7 habits, and Jack Canfield, all his sales, entrepreneurs have them. So I just said, all right, here's the 5 principles that I have applied in my life through watching other people that have helped me go from a place of self-destruction to a place of, thankfulness and happiness and fulfillment. Not perfect life. None of it's perfect, but
never perfect. That's the misconception, I think, Danny, is that we're all reaching for this perfection life, this perfect life, this success, this idea of success, perfection. And then when you get there, what is it? I don't think you ever really reach it. It's an elusive whatever. But what's really awesome about hearing this is that I think people think, when they hear people who've reached a pinnacle of a life where they're really content and excited to get up in the morning, they think that they just woke up and they were like that all the time. And I think what they don't realize is that almost every person who's successful or living the life that they most enjoy, because they went through a lot of dark times. They went through a lot of times where they didn't know the answers and they were searching. And so your story is one of hope, to realize that, hey, if you're in a position where you feel like you can never get to the end of the to the light, you can just one step in front of the other, and your story might be one to inspire and get them going. Where can they get your book and find out more about your workshops?
So the website is www.dannybader.com. A lot of information out there. I've got a YouTube channel as well with a bunch of videos. The book is Back from Heaven's Front Porch, 5 Principles for a Happy and Fulfilling Life.
Oh, yay.
And it's available, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all bookstores. And then I wrote a second one last year called Abraham's Diner.
Ooh, I love that name. How did that come about?
I'll have to send it to you. Simple wisdom for more control, focus, and inspiration. I had this, I had an idea. I did first book and had an idea for second one. And it's about a stressed out executive named Patrick who lives in Orange County, California. He's married with 2 boys. And he's just not focused on what he needs to be focused on. So he goes into this diner owned by Abraham. And Abraham's an older Hawaiian guy that came to California years ago. He's like 80 or something. And he's just one of these wise old kind of sages. And he kind of connects with Patrick a little bit. And Patrick goes through that, that character arc, right? In a movie or a book. He's different from when we first met him. Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating.
Cool.
That's totally fascinating. And I just have a quick question just for myself, because I haven't gotten to read your book, Back from Heaven's Front Porch. Did you have an experience where you met God on your journey?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Now I gotta get your book.
My experience was, I'll tell you just real quick, when we're lowering the ladder, I had a sense that we were going to hit it, like an intuition. I said, this doesn't feel right. And I said to my buddy, and he said, no, we'll be okay. We did it this way this morning. And we did it against better judgment. As soon as the electricity came down and went into my hands and into my body and stopped in my body, I had an absolute calm. And I was still in this world, so to speak, because I saw the other brother coming down off the roof, and I was yelling to him, get your brother, because I was calm. I wasn't saying save me, help me, oh my God, or anything like that. And then my soul, my energy, my essence, spirit, whatever people call it, I don't try to land on the right word. Yeah. There's an energy inside of all of us, I believe. I know that when our body stops, that doesn't. And it's not about where you go to church or where you don't go to church. I just tell people what happened. And my energy was joined in the most intense experience of love and peace ever. And when I wrote the book, I was trying to describe that, and I couldn't, because it was not an experience of this world. Yeah. And I was with, my belief, I was with God and this loving energy, and the communication was not of words. Yeah. And I said to God at one point, because I knew I call it back from heaven's front porch, because think if you go to somebody's house and you're on the front porch, you have further to go, right? Yeah. And that's how I was. I knew I had, and you've heard people say, I had a choice.
I'm not done.
And I did. And I said, what about my mom? Because I have 6 brothers and a sister. And, they would always joke Danny was her favorite. But we all joke. I mean, we got a great family. And I was dating my wife then. And we had, broken up a couple times. We're married now 24 years. And I said to God, what about my mom and what about Lisa? And as soon as I did, I was right back in my body. Wow. It was instant. It was the most bizarre thing ever. And then when we kind of worked the scene a little bit, because Bruce was still out, Stu had come to me and done CPR and left me for dead because it wasn't working. Ran and called 911, ran back past me, and then went to his brother. So I was not here. And God rest his soul, he died in November of cancer, young. That was rough. But he said, you were probably dead for 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I don't know.
Wow. And I bet it felt like an eternity, as it were, because time doesn't exist outside.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But what was interesting is when the paramedics then came and they moved us away and we had a conversation. He said, what happened? I said, I guess we hit the wire. And he said, I know. He said, I heard it. I said, I know. I saw you coming down the ladder. I was yelling to you. Oh. I was yelling, get Bruce, get Bruce. And he looked and he said, you didn't say anything.
So you were already gone. Wow.
Yeah. So
it's amazing. Well,
yeah, the world would be better if we all had these experiences.
I think so.
As I said, because you just come back. I just wish my friend lived.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy in it all. He was a wonderful guy, great dad, great guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully he's with the Lord right now and super happy on the other side.
Oh yeah. I feel his presence. Well, it's interesting because I used to see the numbers 11-11, 4 ones in a row, a lot after the accident. Yeah. And if you do research around that, that's around new beginnings and angels, those 4 numbers.
I didn't know.
And I was recording today. I went in the studio to record the audiobook version. Yeah. First time ever in the studio. And I'm in there with my headphones on, doing everything. And I look over and the guy's got a big board, the engineer and all. And when we're getting ready to start, up at the top, I noticed 1111 on like a digital counter.
Yeah, totally awesome.
And I just felt his presence and off we went. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's totally tremendous. I'm so grateful you were able to share so vulnerably and openly about your experience. And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom today.
Oh, you're welcome so much, Christina. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Well, let everyone know again where they can find out and get your book today.
Okay. Yeah, so Back from Heaven's Front Porch is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any other booksellers, major booksellers. And my website is www.dannybader.com.
Awesome. Well, it's been such a pleasure meeting you and talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
Thanks so much, Christina. My pleasure, too. Wish you all the best.
You too. God bless.
Peace.
Have you ever dreamt of having a podcast made about your family, about someone you love, or an amazing figure whose story must be preserved for future generations? Now you can do just that with Family Sounds, Our team of podcasting producers use personal and oral history to create high-quality audio documentaries about families and real-life heroes. We will transform your history into a meaningful story that can be shared and enjoyed for years to come. To learn more about Family Sounds and to receive your special discount, visit en.familysounds.net/podcast and enter promo code SAVVY. That is en.familysounds.net/podcast and enter SAVVY. After 5 years of creating exciting business content with amazing businesses from around the world, Savvy is now creating a new video series entitled Heartbeat of the World. This series will feature experts from around the globe. We will highlight and discuss some of the greatest challenges facing the U.S. and the world. Co-create with us and find out more at bit.ly/SavvyPatron.
Savvy Business Radio and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at savvybusinessradio.com.